so many students have so many things that they would like to do in their lives, and they do not have the courage, the bravery to take a decision that will work for them, but may not necessarily work for society, for their parents. What made you be so sure of who you are and decide that I'm going to go about living my life authentically?
I think gender is one of those things that you feel so deeply and so internally that, it's actually a marker in pediatrics that you ask a child what is your gender at age 3 or 4 and they know.
Oh.
It's a developmental milestone. And many children start experiencing gender dysphoria or a mismatch between their sex and their gender at that age. And for me, I think it definitely started at that age. And for me, it just got to a point in college where I was so depressed and so absolutely done with life that it just didn't make sense to keep living like this. I remember being in boys' hostel, wondering, I don't think I should be alive. And that seemed like a great idea on some days. And that scared the hell out of me because I think we all have low points in our lives. Makes me emotional to talk about. Hold it together. But yeah, it was a really dark time in my life. And I think I realized that there's only one way to live, and that is being who you really are. And nothing is more important than that. And I was like, no matter how hard, I will be myself. And honestly, that was the best decision I ever took in my entire life. And I don't regret it one bit. And I think that's the one decision that I will never regret, So yeah. I'm sorry. Oh my God.
No,
I feel like
thank you so much for opening
being
up.
emo is so normal and so this thing, but my makeup is going to get spoiled. Yeah, I think college can be hard for a lot of people, and it takes something. You're right. It takes an enormous amount of courage and bravery to just decide once and for all that this is who I am.
When you look back at 18, 19-year-old Trinetra at that time, what do you see today?
You're going to make me cry so hard today, man. What are you doing? What do I see in 18 or 19-year-old Trinetra?
Yeah.
I was a very unhappy person. I think I was a deeply unhappy person, and I was pretending to be very happy every day. And I think people think that depression means looking like one dukhi atma all the time. That's not true. Or, being mentally ill in some capacity or having issues, it doesn't mean that you can see it on people's faces. Very often people look very happy. They look okay, but they're dealing with things in private. And I think I was very much that person who was trying hard to be what my parents wanted me to be, which is that stoic, macho guy who's just not affected by anything, had no feelings. Because I was already so feminine in other ways. The way I walked, the way I spoke to people. I couldn't change that. And I think there is such a culture of, like in India or anywhere, that you cannot tell people that you're not okay. But I'm so glad that, a lot of us young people in the industry had people before us. And even in the trans community, like Sushant, and who came out very recently as trans. But back then, Sushant was a queer man and was living as a queer man. And to sort of lay that groundwork so people can accept more conversation is beautiful. And I think that's the one thing that keeps me going, like to wake up and to be like, there is so much work to be done for this community. So if I were to meet that 18, 19-year-old today, I would just be like, here is a sari, wear it. That's my love language. I think like all of the girlfriends in my life, I constantly give people saris because I feel like it's such a symbol of freedom to me, to lehrao your pallu in front of society when everyone's telling you that you're a crazy person is powerful. And
So well said.
I think now, like, I just sometimes think about those professors or those teachers who didn't get me and made my life hard. I hope you're enjoying watching me on your screen.
No, I'm so glad to hear that, and I'm glad that
Yeah.
it's gotten better. At that time, when you were going through something, what was keeping you going? What was the support system? Did you have one at that time?
At that point in time, I thought that if my life ends today, then it's going to be my old name everywhere. Like
Wow.
it's going to be that name on social media or like wherever. And I don't want to leave this world living as a man. You know, if it happens, it has to happen glamorously. As myself, I have to experience this world in my true body and in my true identity for some time. And I think that idea that there is a version of myself out there that I need to access that is not here yet, that kept me going. I was just following that voice because there were times that my parents didn't understand either. They get it now. But the first thing that my mum said, you know, when I came out as queer was, "Are you going to grow boobs?"
Wow.
Because I can't take that. Like, that's too much LGBT for me. And I was like, I get it now, you know, because it's not easy for any parent when a child has an unconventional path. And then I think when my parents went to therapy and started understanding things themselves, then those 3-4 years later, they became more of a support system in my life, for sure.
That's quite a cool thing to hear that your parents went to therapy.
Yeah, that never happens, right?
Yeah. Was it at their own decision? Was it something that you pushed them to do?
So there was a friend of theirs who was a psychologist, and he knew that this was happening. And so, you know, mom was like, let's chat and see. And that's what happened. And now, my God, my mom will look at all of this therapy, speak on Instagram and be like, do you have abandonment issues? I'm like, what? And she'll be like, generalized anxiety. She knows all the words now, and it's really like, wow. I think for them to access therapy and to do the work was my biggest blessing in some ways. Because if they hadn't done that, they wouldn't have supported my transition. You know, when I started making money off of content and acting and things, I could fund the rest of my transition.
Yeah.
But those first few initial steps was them. I think if you've brought a child into this world and they're queer or gay or bi or whatever, you have a responsibility to support that child. And even if it's a career choice you don't agree with, a partner you don't agree with, or whatever, they're still your child. Like,
Absolutely.
you should be allowed to go back home and be like, Mom, help, you know. And I think to have that support system now is a privilege. It really is.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe and share.